Hey, welcome to another episode of Electrical Theology, Esoteric Life Coaching, where here daily we're going to be doing readings on Monday through Friday. And my name is Charles. Thank you for showing up. And if you're new to this channel, definitely like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And what we do every day is a daily reading, like I said. And Mondays have to do with the divines, what I call the divines. They could be shadow light workers, they could be light workers, they could be the astral, they could be the etheric, they could be elementals, they could be the angelics. We just call them divine because die and vine is die meaning two, and vine the portal or the corridor, the doorway, the speakers, whatever words you want to use, is that there's a transmitter and a receiver. So they receive our messages and then transmit them back, and same with us. We receive their messages and then we send them messages. Or like I call it, I am a cosmic reporter, which means I read and port. So I go back through portals, give them information, and again, we can do this consciously. We don't have to leave our bodies necessarily, although we can astral travel, we can do a lot of fun things. I can go down a road of all that stuff, but I do want to touch on some stuff because normally Wednesdays it's a general reading, but the ancestors were not the ancestors, that's normally Tuesdays, but Mondays is the divines, but the divines are coming through with a lot of messages today, so I want to show you a simple spread that I do that will help you, depending on what you want to do. If it's both, is that you will be the transmitter to the divine and say, hey, what's going on in y'all's world? Right? We always want to know what's going on in our world, in our personal life, our health, wealth, and love. But sometimes it's going to help you get a deeper perspective when you can find out what's happening in their world. And just like you being asked questions, you like to talk about yourself. We all do. And then they also like it when they can share their information. Right? Not just us always asking for their insight, but what we want to understand is what's happening on their world. So today I'm just going to show you a simple spread of a transmitter and a receiver. Now, in ancient times, this was the receiver, this was transmitters, right? Pyramids, obelisks, stuff like this. It was how we transmitted signals through the earth, all across the earth and other planets. But because some of us beings were from different places, different realms, that we and all humans on this planet all have built-in transmitters or receivers, right? Because we're bioelectrical, biochemical, and biomechanical, so therefore we can transmit and receive, right? We have the capacity within our brains to transmit and receive, right? Just like we have receptors for certain plants on this planet that help us open our mind, which then we can receive, right? Because we get caught up in our daily routines that we live in the 3D, as people call it. I'm okay with those terms, but there's multiple dimensions beyond those dimensions, and it's just not 3 or 5 level. I understand the words, but dimensions for me are di, mens, ion, just like divine, all right, or the divines. The die is 2, and dimensional, it's di, mens, ion. So it's 2 mens energies. And men's just a category for the galactic humanoid out there. It's neither male or female in this regard. So if you go back and watch a lot of my videos about the transmitter receivers, the secret grid, I talk about that we're building, the whole idea of my program here was to build you and open up to that you are a divine being that's here in a holograph, if you will, and you got yourself stuck. And so I'm here to help you reconnect, right? Report, right? What's going on here to back there, but somehow there's been a divide, right, between the divines and us. And so my goal through my life is to reestablish that link between the beings here on earth, stuck on earth if you want to say, and the divines, and why it is that we're having trouble communicating. Now some people don't have trouble, they're wired to have good communication. A lot of paperback psychics and astrologists and all this stuff just learn what they did from a book, right, instead of just making their own book, if you will, right? Learning from others, absolutely, right? What works, what doesn't work, all that good stuff. But reestablishing the link is going to help us understand why sometimes we cannot get our messages across, or no one's hearing it, right? Our prayers aren't being answered, right? And then we just give these fluff answers like, well, beings work in mysterious ways, we'll put it that way. But sometimes on the galactic side, the divine side, there are breakdowns as well. There are wars that happen between them. There are factions that take over, right? And so one of the divine readings that I just sort of had this morning, or what came through, is we'll just put it in a story form, because that's the best I can do, is that I was brought into a body of an English person around a whole bunch of other people in an old hotel. Not old, but it's a hotel, but everything's run down because outside was sort of in chaos. We were across from a stadium, and I'm not sure where in the world we were because I was more fascinated, and I was lucid through this whole thing. And I looked outside, and it was dark, and it was sort of like a party going on in the hotel, but not what you would call a celebratory party as a New Year's Eve or something. It was more that people have been living in this hotel out of survival, right? And just waiting for end times, if you will. And then, and that's sometimes we'll get the judgment card when we see that. That's Metatron, using its voice, or God saying, hey, I'm coming down, right? Things are going to get destroyed, right? Read the Bible if you want to know those stories, or the Mahabharata. It's all about wars up in heaven. Long story short is that they said, yeah, there's only a few more hours left. And I'm like, what do you mean? Right? And I'm, again, inside this body of this guy who speaks English or British or whatever. And I look outside in the stadium across from me, it's dilapidated. The marquee on front of it's lit, but it's all crashed. I look outside and there's like an old Winnebago RV. So I know it has to be sometime in the future. Now, is it this world? Is it another dimension? Is it another parallel universe? I wasn't able to hold the link long enough to get that information, because again, when you're there, you get fascinated and talking to people. But the point is that we looked up at the moon, and the moon was on its last slither, if you will, of light, like a crescent moon. And the crescent moon and all the rest of the moon was sort of just cosmic debris floating around it that was sort of sparkling and lit up. But it was the last time that the moon would ever be full. Now, we have our conspiracies on what the moon is. It's just a satellite. It's a machine driven from across the universe. If you read your ancient mythology, it was an egg. It was stolen, taken over here and placed perfectly right around the Earth and the sun. That's why it's 400 times bigger, or the sun's 400 times bigger than the moon. I mean, there's a lot of fun things that go on with the moon. That's not this class. My point to it is that the end times was coming. Now again, is this in the near future? Is it another parallel? I don't know. I'll establish that later. But my point is that I was actively asking the divines to show me what's going on from their point of view. Right? Not to bring necessarily messages to Earth, even though I'm sharing that message with you. So what I want to do today is to help y'all hone in and focus in a simple reading of a transmitter receiver, and then see in the middle, right, what's going on. Now we can do this two different ways, and I'll show you all both of them, right? So we can just basically get any deck you want, and what we're looking for is just establishing a link. And so just like a transmitter or receiver of ancient times, the V and the N, if you will, right, V, N, we simply just want to establish a symbol of that transmitter and receiver. So we can either go the N, right, top of the N, bottom of the N, and then the bottom of the N, which is just the opposite. Right, so we almost have a Kabbalah or Tree of Life looking thing, and then in the middle, we'll bring these down so we can see them. We'll bring that one down just a little bit, and I turn them down for right now, and then we'll turn one in the middle, like that, to sort of link us up and get the messages for both. The other one is, which I sort of like better, is the sideways one. and then the one in the middle. All right, that makes sense? So what I do with the information that I normally get downloaded or I transport out into another Earth, another place, or whatever, the idea is for me to be a reporter. So on Earth, I take what it is and then I go through a portal, a conscious portal, if you will, and then I read means again, and I report. So I'm a cosmic reporter that I take the information and then get it back to whatever planet or being that is asking for it, right? And so the same thing again is that then I get their information, their newspaper, if you will, and then bring it here to Earth and then share that information with y'all. And just as we will never have all the information in a newspaper to the entire story, right? What's purposely left out in a crime spree, if you will. There's certain things that they withhold from the public for reasons. We're not going to get into crime solving. That's another life I did a long time ago with using these abilities. And having the insights, right, with a newspaper gives you just a short bit of the story, but it doesn't give you all the stuff that happened and everything that was affected by it. You only get the AP polls version of it, right? One of my degrees is in news reporting, so it's interesting that I go, and communication, which is interesting in the field that I do. So I wanted to know more and learn more. So if you are feeling that you're sort of stuck in a place in your life, is go out and learn what it is that's going to help you become a better communicator, right? Be able to stand the pressures of reporting through strangers, asking questions, right? Here, as a reporter, I'm questing ions or questioning. So I go there and ask them questions. They give me their version, their newspaper, their AP poll version, or Reuters or any of the other outlets. And then they give it back here, and then I, through whatever form or medium that I choose to give it to whomever, who's ever asking for it, is what I'm doing. So that's why, that's a long, short version of that story to say why I'm just now sticking with readings every day. I'll have my classes over on different platforms that y'all can go take. And I've already given them all out free, but I'm taking them all down or restricting them over and putting them over into these because I'm focusing now on helping y'all be able to reconnect or connect for the first time with the other sides and other beings and other dimensions. And then being able to communicate and then be able to translate that information and then be able to tell others about it. Is that making sense? That's why I'm doing all this stuff now online, because there's more and more that's happening in the galactic neighborhood, if you will, that is tumultuous. There are federations out there behind the moon of Gedamine and a few other places that are having conventions, if you will, and re-established, much like in the ancient times when you had the two heads of Christianity, one in Rome and one in Germany. And the two were canonizing what should be and not be within the Christian doctrine. And so finally it was the Nicene Creed in 325, around there, that Constantine II, I think the father, or the son of the father, got everyone together and then canonized that it's going to be one head of the church. So Germany basically got taken out and Rome became the head of the church. And then you have the whole story of Rome and the Bible and the crucifixions, all that good stuff. But that was a major takeover, right? But we had to bring all of these different versions of Christianity under one roof. Well, sort of what's happening now, because there's been a big galactic war that sort of is connected to people here, what we call the Deep South, not Florida and all that stuff, but it's just called the Deep South, or the Deep Government, the shadow governments that, and the non-government agencies that are sort of trying to take over the world and enslave people even more. And so the Galactic Federation, if you will, has been fighting these mind-controlling hives that had reign over the humans for a while. And I know this sounds like sci-fi. That's fine, great, it's entertaining, right? So like it, subscribe, all that good stuff if you like this entertainment. And so we've basically, the Galactic Federation has control over the main faction that was enslaving humans in their brainwaves. And so through governments are just govern the mind. Government means govern your mind. And so this faction was in cahoots with Earth to say, hey, we're going to control the humans for exchange of electronics and technology, right? Because whoever has the best technology rules the world, right? And this goes back throughout history. The Aryan nation, when they were trying to collect all the ancient artifacts to become the superior race, right? Because when you have the biggest gun, you win the war, right? So there's always this faction of trying to get the biggest gun and win the world and take over and dominate and all this stuff. Well, in the Galactic Neighborhood, there was this war, and that's why we're going to do this reading to find out what's going on and why is it that I had this encounter where I was seeing that the moon was on its last slither forever, and it's just all debris. Right? Is there another galactic war? I don't know. Why is it they're showing me this? I'm not sure. But back to the Federation is that they are all coming together now and trying to come under one creed of how the galaxy should be ran. And there are still factions of the Deep Self still trying to fight their way here on Earth, and they are being taken care of. All the political figures that were involved and groups are being taken out. Now, the news will tell you some version that they died or that they got sick, they were in a car crash, they got arrested, whatever. They're going to take all these, and they are taking these out, these minions of these enslavers, right? Long story short, I'm just here to report. That's what when I do with the divine readings, which I normally do on Mondays. Tuesdays is ancestors, Wednesdays is sort of a general, and then Thursday we get into understanding how it is we're able to communicate and setting up your own personal grid, your own personal transmitter and receiver, right? Building, that's a transmitter receiver, your mother and your father and you. When you got those three together, you triangulate and you send off a fire in the middle, which is pyramid. So this is a pyramid, right? There's two upside down pyramid, and right side up pyramid. What is above is below, right? You can't have that without that. And so it then creates a cube, right? And then the six-sided cube, then the six-sided cube becomes a pentagram or hexagram, depending on all the ancient geometry of dodecahedron, icosahedron. All these have crystal shapes, which within your body has crystals in it from the food you eat, from the body making its own stuff, which then a crystal is a transmitter. It can be used as a battery to a transmitter or receiver. So we're cleaning up our bodies, clearing up our minds, and then we're able to transmit and receive. All right. So let's get on with this reading. I'll just use the cards that are out here if y'all want. And there's no certain order, and I'll just flip them as they are. All right. So for me, my left side, this is going to be the transmitter, and this is going to be the receiver. So this is going to be the male. This is going to be the female. Right. And so what we're doing is establishing a link between me transmitting and their receiver, much like a walkie-talkie or CB radio. I click, hey, anyone out there? Anyone out there? Anyone got ears? Hey, link with me. So then we'll come together, just like your cell phone. You call someone, you're linked, right? So we're establishing a link. And that's why in cryptocurrency, you really definitely want to keep an eye on the cryptocurrency called Chainlink. Because it is being used to establish old systems in the new system, and it links them together. It creates analog and digital and the new blockchain together. Right? So keep an eye on that cryptocurrency. I used to do cryptocurrency videos, but then there's more and more doing it. But underlining, I always love doing this stuff. So anyway, the first thing we see here at the peak or the apex of the pyramid is the Knight of Swords. Swords are all about communication, and this communication is moving. So we are transmitting. This is a transmitting signal. You see the light on his staff or his sword. Now we also have at the one side of our pyramid, and if we look at this as the pyramid as I showed, we have you at the top, father to the left, and then mother to the right. Right? Just for this reading, you can change it right or left for mother, father. I don't care what you do with it. This is how I do it. So At the mother side, we have communication. So we have good receptive. We're open to receiving, but yet it is upside down or in the reverse. So we can't communicate just yet. Which if this reverse, if this mother energy from me transmit, I'm not open to receive, which means they're probably talking, right? And we'll get into what they're talking here in a minute. And then we have at the bottom the hangman. That's under the fathers, right? Or the mechanical, right? Or the physical world, right? So the wheels, in essence, that's an antenna, an array. And then the communications specifically for me, if you will. And if it's specifically for me, that's fine. And if it's if my intention, if you will, is, and again, intention for me is N10 ions, right? I'm in the power of 10, which is again the pyramid, fire in the middle. So you ever see those old walkie-talkies or the old microphones, the big round microphones? We used to call them lollipops when my dad had a CB or a radio at home. And then, or you can get the old fancy ones that they used to use on the radio, right? And that's sort of what that looks like, is the top of that. So it's for communicating, and it's communicating the hangman, which is individuality for me, right? Individuation, right? This also for me stands for that there's a specific transmission. It's not a broadcast. It's going from me to a specific group out there in the galaxy, right? So basically right now it says, look, I clicked, I'm open, I'm ready to receive information. And so basically I gave my call, and now they're going to call back to me. So now from the receiver side of this specific family, now there's one major in here, which is the levers or choice. And you see that one's transmitting and one's receiving, right? Her love's going out and then it's coming back to him. So transmitter, receiver, right? Father, mother. And so if you look at the pyramid from this side, this will be the mother side, this will be the father side. So if I turn it this way, right? It's me, father, mother. Now, on the father side, it's the page, right? He's got his antenna up, right? Waiting to hear a call. Right, so what's the message? Right? How can we interpret a message here? Well, that's on their side, right? The person I'm communicating with is a president, a king, any title you want to give someone that's in charge of a kingdom or queendom or whatever, right? They're in charge. And look at the planet that's up there, right? Saturn. So this message is coming from Saturn, right? And around Saturn, you also have a portal or a gateway behind there, which the people who then started MK Ultra and a few of these other secret societies came from that portal, right? You have the Draconians, you have the a few other ones. I don't want to get too much into names, but there's a doorway or portal behind Saturn, right? And so that's where our message is coming from. Now, it's not the main dude of the entire planet or federation or whatever, right? Because this is a minor card, right? Now, if this was an emperor card, then yeah, that would definitely be a big wig. But if you will, I'm a small fish in that galactic pond. And so I'm talking to someone in middle management or that's in charge of its own town, if you will, but still respectful. Right? So we can look at what's going on, or what the message is that they are wanting us to see. And so that's where we're going to bring in the connection. So again, what do we get? We get King of Pentacles. So now we have two kings, right? So we have one king over here that's a King of Cups, which is open. They're open to our communication. They're just like the Lover's card. Lover's also choice. So we have love here. We have the King of Love, if you will. But again, the heart is all about open and receiving, right? And the King of Pentacles is all about grounding. We're establishing a ground link. So this could be an intermediary between that king and me, so mediumship. This can be a spaceship. This can be a captain of a spaceship. And you look again, there's that moon that's sort of on its last leg, right? Its last slither, as I sort of described earlier, that the moon's going to break apart. Now, this moon here is not breaking apart, but it is on its last phase, if you will. So what we're seeing here is that here on Earth, there's war, right? There's a unresolved war that's happening, right? The swords, right? You have the King of Swords over here, so you have, or the Knight of Swords. So there's a galactic war, or a bunch of kings coming together. There's a war being fought. Again, I'm giving this as a general reading because we can get into specifics of Ukraine and Russia and all this other stuff. But for me, today I want to know what's happening out there. Can they give me what's happening out there? Not for the purpose of Earth necessarily, but what's going on in their world. So because I'm seeing that things are getting better over there, there's a choice that's being made to bring that warrior. You see the warrior, he's got his fighting helmet on, and then he's lifting up the female, right, as if victory, right, Solus Invictus, right, Mithricism. And then you have the king who his army doesn't have swords, they have creative outlets. They're coming up with creative diplomacy, right? All those other oranges that you see there, that fruit is different planets or solar systems out there. And so they're beginning to come together, right, for the first time, as I explained earlier, and negotiate and have diplomacy about how they can create their own creed within the planets, or what I'm calling Galactic Federation, right? And so there's a King of Pentacles, right, who is the emissary between Earth and Saturn, right? Now, basically, we can find out more information about this reading if we want, but I'll go into that, into the extended. But what I wanted to do today is just give you a basic sort of sideways pyramid reporting. I'm opening a portal. This is our portal keymaster, if you will, our gatekeeper, our mediumship. So in essence, I'm a medium connecting that medium who's given me their version of all what's going over there. Because sometimes they don't always have time to answer the call, but they know I'm a reporter, so when I knock or call, then they will then bring their operator, and I'll talk to the operator, and the operator gives me the version, or I drop off my report to them, and then they then say, okay, can you find out this? Here's your next assignment, right? An assignment is assigned mind. So my mind then is assigned, and then I go gather information from my perspective, my unique perspective as a white male on this earth, right? And I do my best to be unbiased. Now, we can never be completely unbiased, but as a reporter, we're sort of taught to be neutral, right? And we do our best. Yes, I'm not a female, I'm not a ethnic person, so I can never see through those eyes. What I can do is ask a lot of questions and get their perspective, and then present their perspectives, right? And again, in these reports, it's not about right or wrong, it's just a report, right? What's happening on the front lines, what's happening on the back lines, what's happening over here, right? And it's more analytical in some sense. But when I see a lot of the hearts come in over here, it means there's celebration beginning to happen. There is an order. Things have come together over here with the lovers. And again, like I said, in the extended, I'm going to go ahead and go into more detail of what the message really in the detail means, and then go further in to see if we can see anything else coming out of here specifically, all right, and dates and times, all right? I appreciate you showing up. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, guys, and then there'll be a link in the description below if you want to get the extended version of today.